Okay, let's get started really quickly. So, we're here to discuss a very serious problem. Apparently there's 28 million developers in the world, and about a quarter of those are in this region, the APAC region. That's like a lot in Japan, a lot in Singapore, like 5 or 6 in Australia, and most of the developers leave Australia anyway. And basically what we want to talk about here is it's really hard to find speakers for things like conferences and extending onto that, content creators. And so whenever we try and do these kinds of conferences, and an extension like I run an iOS meetup in Japan, finding speakers is really hard. Like there's a lot of folks, as you can see, there's a lot of interest for these kinds of events. There's a lot of folks here. I'm sure all of you have the chops to come up here and speak or contribute something to the iOS community. Everyone has their own unique perspective, and it's something we all want to hear. So what we want to do here is we have 4 extremely seasoned content creators and conference circuit runners here who can share their knowledge of you and give everyone a bit of motivation to come up and do the exact same thing that they do. So does that sound good?
Woo!
Cool. Alrighty. So first of all, I really want to just go straight through, so it's not just me talking the whole time. Really quickly, all 4 of you, could you just give your origin story? Like, how did you come to do this sort of thing? Like, what motivated you to come speak at conferences and do the sort of content creation that you do?
Okay, so back in the day when I worked at a company called Booking.com in Amsterdam, every year they have a internal conference for all the 10,000 employees around the world, and apparently they needed somebody to speak in the tech part of the thing. So my boss came up to me. I had only been working there maybe a couple of months, and he basically voluntold me to give the talk because he couldn't find anybody else to do it. So yes, I said, sure, boss, and then I had to write a talk. So I talked about it working in a toy store, and then eventually from there, people internally who had spoken externally at conferences and stuff, they were like, oh, that was fun. I was like, oh, great. I was glad you liked it. I just did what I was told to do, so I didn't get fired because I'm here on a working visa. Yeah, exactly. It's like they're just going to kick me out of the country. So I did it, and then they gave my name, and then people reached out to me, and they were like, hey, would you do a talk at this other place? And I was like, okay, because I got to go somewhere that I had never been before, and then I immediately regretted it. I was like, why am I doing this? And then I don't know how I ended up here. So here I am. That's my origin story. Thanks, Janina.
Cool. Fantastic. What about you, Mikaela?
So I had started content creation and everything because I wanted to be an iOS developer. So what I did, beginning January 1st of 2019, I was like, I want to be an iOS dev, so I am going to post on Instagram once per day of me learning iOS development. So you can go follow me on Instagram. It's just my name, Mikaela Karen. As long as you can spell it, then you can find it. But if you can't, you just look for the unicorn emoji, so that's how you know that it's probably me. But if you look on my profile, scroll 600 posts back, you will find I'm going through a Code with Chris tutorial and learning what is Xcode, what are variables, and getting started with iOS development. So that's how I started getting into content creation, and then went from Instagram over to Twitter, because Twitter was where a bunch of other iOS devs were. And from there, I saw some posts about oh, there's a lot less women who are doing conferences, and what are the reasons behind that, and what can we do? So I had just commented being well, the first thing you do when you're looking at conferences is submit a CFP. And I was like, what is a CFP? Does anybody in the audience here know?
It's a cup.
Oh, I hear one. Hey, Adam, what is it?
It's Adam.
I heard it is a call for presentation or paper. And that is, yeah, that's what I heard, it's what it stands for. But basically it means I'm going to write a summary of what my talk is going to be about, and then from there you submit that to some kind of conference, and they will say yes or no, we want you to give this talk or not. So from there, when I had tweeted about what this was, I had gotten several people responded back to me and explain what it is, what makes a good CFP. You can look, I believe it's the Women Who Code Mobile, their YouTube channel has a 3-part series that says what is a CFP and how do you write one. So you can go look at theirs, and I kind of went through those videos and then through like multiple Instagram and like Twitter DMs, and like ended up making several CFPs that I submitted. The first one that I submitted got accepted in August of last year, and that was for 360 iDev, so that was the very first conference talk that I gave. So I did that, then ended up talking at Server-Side Swift in this past December over in London, and I was like, well, I've never been to London before, so that sounds fun. And then ended up coming here for Singapore, and I almost didn't come because it was a very long travel, and then I have somewhere else that I have to be like 2 weeks at home, and then I'm about to leave for like the next 5 months as well. So I was like, do I really want to go to Singapore? But then I was like, looked at like, what is Singapore? What can we do here? And I'm like, what is it? Like, find out it's a city and a country and an island. And I was like, wait, what? So I was like, what is a Singapore? And found out, let's do that. Let's go to Singapore. And that's how I ended up here. Yeah, let's Singapore.
That's Singapore.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah, so I'll be honest, right? Like my origin story could actually be turned into a movie, like a movie that could go straight to DVD, like on Netflix. So basically, what happened with me, right, is that like I was just like relaxing at home at my girlfriend's place, and I got a message on Facebook saying that someone's broken into your apartment, and I was like, funny joke. No, seriously, someone's broken into your apartment. So I'm running home. This is me running home, and then I went home, and I was like, oh, someone actually has broken into my apartment. So this is during Christmas time, and it was also during the time when the PlayStation 5 just came out. So what they did was they unwrapped all the presents, they left all the like doo-doo ones. So I basically said to someone, it was a shit present. And then they took my PlayStation 5.
Oh no!
And then they even took my laundry basket with my boxes in it. I don't know. I woke up the next morning, I was like, I'm pretty sure I had a laundry basket in this room. And it just went missing. Anyway, so I was just sat at home doing nothing, and I thought, you know what, yeah, like, I don't like writing. Why don't I just start a YouTube channel where I just teach people iOS development? And that's literally how my YouTube channel started. So, I remember one day Paul messaged me, and he was saying, like, you know, why don't you talk at conferences? And I was like saying to Paul that, like, you know, I'm not too sure I want to like travel. I just want to, you know, focus on doing videos. And he was like, you know, it'd be good to like get your name out there, meet people in the community. And I was like, oh, go on then, Paul, I'll do it. And then I did it. And I think it was, I think the first one was Swift Conf in iOS. We met at like iOS Dev UK. And then I've just been going on from there. So yeah, basically, if my PlayStation 5 never got robbed, Tunde's Dev wouldn't exist.
Weaponized motivation there.
Yeah, basically, yeah, man. But yeah, that's pretty much how my YouTube started. And that's how I started speaking as well.
What are we gonna steal from Tunde so he does like karaoke tours?
Oh, trust me. Listen, you don't need to steal anything for karaoke. I said it, man. Put Stevie Wonder on. I'll be singing all day and night. That's all I need.
Cool. Very good. I'm very sorry about the PS5. Those things are still really hard to get. I'm really sad to hear that. Oh, yeah, fair enough. All right, Paul.
So my origin story is, I think, the standard origin story for men in our industry, which is just blind optimism.
Yeah.
We think, oh, I can do that. That looks easy. And it's not easy. It's not. And literally when I started, I was reading a magazine, believe it or not, this was 20 years ago, about Linux. And I thought, oh, I could write for that magazine. I could write tutorials for that magazine. I could write programming tutorials for that magazine. I'm going to do it. And they went, go on then. And in 6 months' time, I had a job there working full-time and got into writing full-time. And I've been doing tutorials and teaching and sharing knowledge ever since. Now, do I want to start a fight with Tim over there? Because he looks quite strong, actually. But I actually disagree. I don't think you should be content creators. Don't become content creators. I'm not trying to keep my job or anything. I hate people who say to me, Paul, how do I become a content creator? Because we're not here to create content. We're here to share things we've learned, or share our enthusiasm, or share cool techniques, or learn together. It's not just content and ideas. It's like, get excited. You can do something cool. You can do something cool. You can do something cool. Brilliant. Maybe next year, there'll be a Singaporean on stage, or perhaps even 5 Singaporeans on stage. That's really what I want to see, not just more and more content. Sorry, Tim.
No, you raised.
I'm very far away for a reason, you know. Like you're dangerous, man.
Oh, I see. Okay, you said there. It was a strategic positioning. I see. No, you actually raised a really good point. Like the term content creation is, it's a very controversial one, isn't it? Because it's like you're creating for the sake of creating and not for the sake of you actually have something you want to show off or something constructive you want to create. So definitely we could rephrase that in such a way that it indicates that you're not just creating for the sake of creating. You actually want to show off something you've learned and you're proud of.
I think an interesting point is that like I was speaking to someone yesterday, and they were saying that I want to start a YouTube channel. How do I get to 1,000 subscribers? And I remember saying to him that that's kind of already going to be your downfall, because if you start putting goals on like getting subscribers and whatnot, that's something that you can't even, that's completely out of your hands. Do you know what I mean? I basically said to him that the whole reason, I know one of the main reasons why I did YouTube was because I thought that, in my day job as a lead, I actually don't get to code that much. So this is a way for me to basically stay on top of like new APIs and new technology, but also as well, it's a way for me to share my style of teaching, because my brother was like, the way you teach stuff, it's so clear to me. So I was like, okay, there's people who enjoy my style or Paul's style or Mikaela's style or, even Erin's style. So I think... No, I didn't mean it like that. Not at all. No, but what I mean is that, some people like really detailed code examples, and some people learn more by having that more fun type where it's not like super, super serious.
Or being sworn at multiple times. I'm
Yeah.
really sorry about that.
But
I've got a
you know what I
potty
mean?
mouth.
I think it's important to have different styles, and I think it's important to say if you do want to blog and whatnot, don't go into it thinking that I'm going to be this superstar. You should just do it because I want to learn something new, and I now have something new in the bank that I can now reference later and share to other people.
Yeah, definitely. And with that, it's what I did when I started with Instagram was it's document, not create. So I'm not creating content. I'm just documenting me learning iOS development. So you go back and then you see how far you've come. I see when I got my new MacBook, the M1 Pro and everything. I was like, oh, so happy when I got that. And then I'm Intel Mac was out of the thrown in the trash. Not really. But you get to see how far you've come when you just are documenting what you're doing, and it's even tutorial style content too, because you are documenting how you learned how to do something. That could be the thing that somebody else connects with and made them finally understand some certain concept. Who has a blog post about closures? Literally every blogger that is in this room right now. But which one did you actually understand? It's everybody's different teaching style, so it's the way you understood something could be the way somebody else does as well.
That's great. Something I just want to add really quickly. I'll try and get my opinion out of this. But another good thing to mention about this is it's also self-motivating as well. It's something that lets you self-document, but also it's a really good way to keep yourself on track and to actually document your own, as you see your own process, it's a way to actually work out which direction you're heading in as well, which is really good. Cool. Okay, that's great. Thanks for the chat. Let's get just to move on a little bit. I'm going to keep it on the content creation wavelength. I know it's like you what, mate? Yeah. But if it's okay, full. Something that's really interesting for all four of you is you've all got four different types of angles that you're working on. So Erin's got a book. Mikaela does live stream YouTube videos. Tunde does actual proper sorry.
Yeah, we're all just digging at each other up here.
As in, no, that's not what I meant. Pre-created, curated YouTube videos, ones that are a lot less risky, because when you're on a live stream, anything can happen. So, and Paul, you just Paul. Paul, you just do the whole spectrum, including armchair wrestling. Yeah. So I don't know where I was going with that now. I guess basically what attracted you to each of these different types of content creation? Because it's documentation. What drove you to this sort of direction you wanted to go in?
So for me personally, I hate writing. Even though I'm a developer, I don't like writing documentation. I just don't like writing. When I was in high school and I had English, I tried to find the easiest way to get out of it because I just don't like writing long documents. So for me, sitting down and recording a video is more enjoyable for me than having to use Grammarly to spell check everything that I write. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's why I do it.
So then I'll come in with the complete opposite of what Tunde does. Making a YouTube tutorial is so much work, and I was like, I don't have time for that. So instead, I'm just gonna go live on YouTube. All I have to do is hit go live, and I just start coding. And part of that is I'm wanting to show how much thought really goes into making an app, because when you watch a tutorial, you're watching the very edited version, how he figured out how to do everything the proper way, made everything compile line by line. But then when you watch my live streams, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just figuring out, okay, the goal that I have in the end of this live stream is to try to do this one task. How do I get there? I don't know. we'll see. We'll figure it out. But that's the point of the live stream is like you can watch a million tutorials and still not understand what you're doing until you actually go about trying to do it. So live streaming was easier for me because it takes less time because I just have one goal. Okay, figure out how to go about doing that goal, but not actually like planning everything ahead of time.
What about you, Erin?
So, in terms of writing a book, I actually decided to write a book because I'm not good at writing, and I was just like, well, that seems really hard. I want to learn how to do that.
I'm seeing a trend here. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like I've never written a book. I might as well, let's just see how that goes. And part of it has to do with like the language I feel like we use in tech or marketing or business speak. There's so much jargon out there, and there's overly complex language. And when I had worked, well, just in general in tech, there's such a diverse group of people, and English is sometimes people's third, fourth, fifth languages. Yeah, we do forget that a lot. We're all native English speakers, aren't we? So like that is a privilege right there for us. And for me, I wanted to make complex concepts really just dead simple for people in like, let's say 7th grade English language reading skills. With lots of pictures that caters to different types of people's learning styles, and then figure out ways that I can, tell stories for people that would prefer to listen to people tell stories, and just coming up with different ways to help people understand and think with me. Going back to your previous question, it's like I come up here not as like a means of creating content, but I think of it as like creating that hive mind like I talked about in my talk yesterday, collective knowledge. So I just make shit up. Like I drew that picture and I was like, I'm calling this conversion design. And
Everyone does that.
yeah, so people do that. That's how you just kind of say, this is a thing now. Tell me what you think about that. So it's like we're all thinking together up here, and I feel like people don't feel empowered to chime in and share their voice because they don't use big words. When in actuality, I feel like the people that really know what they're talking about can just break it down into the simplest concepts ever and make sure that everybody can explain it. Should I tell you a story about my daughter really quick? Like, this is how I think about things. I was learning about statistics and writing hypotheses and all that jazz and probability. And I ended up trying to explain probability to my 5-year-old daughter, like about the frequency of poops to peas versus stinkers. And I was just like, so what do you think is actually more probable to have, like, with the likelihood? So I had to say, like, because she learns Dutch and she learns English and she didn't really understand. So I what are terms that I can use and words that I can use to get her to understand this? And she ended up getting it. But it's like I had to think, like, how do I take these really complex math concepts, make it fun, because I would rather talk about poop. I would have poop jokes all day, every day. Everybody relates to that, right? And at the end of the day, if there's some pictures and you get it, it's a form of stopping with gatekeeping, I guess, so that way everybody feels like they can learn and contribute, even if they don't use the fancy, hard English words. So that's mine.
Fantastic. Yeah. Excellent. And Paul, what about you? You seem to do the whole spectrum of like, you do like live streams, you do conference talks, you do workshops, you do, every time I go on Google, like I have a Swift question. I'm like, how do I do a delay timer in Swift? Like straight away, number one on Google is always a Hacking with Swift, like mini article. Like how do you come up with that? And how did you like decide to go on like the entire spectrum, that sort of like, I'm scared to say it, content creation.
Someone asked me yesterday how I write as much as I do, consistently. And I tried to reply as best I could, which is that this person I'm speaking to was an iOS developer. How much time per day do they spend writing code? And you might think, oh, lots of my day. Well, is it lots of your day, though? Or are you looking at Jira? Or doing pull requests and pull request reviews, checking your emails, going to stand-ups, meetings? Maybe an hour, 2 hours a day, you're actually sitting down writing code, and maybe it's a small bug fix. I spend all my day noodling around with code, trying things, throwing them away, trying them again, throwing that away, trying a third time, throwing that away, and the fourth time I kind of like and I ship that thing, eventually I go with that. So I'm able to pick and choose what I do. And so I come and go. Today I'm like, I have not got the patience to do a video today. I'm going to write an article. I enjoy articles, they're fun. Next week, actually, I'm going to sit and play the Switch for a while. I don't have to do any of those things. But I'm able to pick and choose based on my whims and feelings on that day, and that is an extraordinary privilege to be able to do that. And so I don't do these things in all the varieties because I enjoy doing all these different things. I do it because, like, actually today I feel like just posting this on YouTube, something nice and short, or a live stream, whatever it is, and that lets me have more freedom and, honestly, more happiness too.
That's great. That's a really fantastic answer. Like, I was thinking about just saying just now, like, weaponized procrastination to a certain extent there, but it's not. It's just kind of like whatever you just feel like doing, and you can just rotate whatever you feel like doing, and that's it. That's all it is. That's fantastic.
I think folks can really tell if you want to make a YouTube video, if you are not enthusiastic, they will not be enthusiastic. If you don't care about vapor, for example, they will not care about vapor. You're just talking away to the screen like in a monotone, they're not going to care. I was saying just yesterday on the drive home to Adam Bell, I was saying, hey, one of my favorite presenters of all time is a TV presenter called David Attenborough. He does nature shows. And he goes up and says, oh, these ants are coming here after a 5-mile thing. And he's like, he deeply cares about these ants or the walruses or whatever he's talking to, and he makes you care about the ants or walruses or dolphins, whatever it happens to be. Hey, stay off focus here. Because he's enthusiastic about his topic. He's excited about his topic, and therefore you are excited about topic too. That is the most important thing. For me, a great presentation on stage, by the way, is enthusiastic first, entertaining second, educational only third. Yeah. Learn like 1 or 2 new things on stage, brilliant, you're happy. But if you're boring and teach them lots, they'll forget it straight away. Sorry, tangent.
No, that's really good. That's what we're here for. That's what we really need. Thank you. Also, are you related to David Attenborough? That was extremely on point.
You'll never know.
Are you David Attenborough?
Oh. Yeah, you look really good for 95. Okay, cool. Just another question now. I want to talk really quick about years of experience, like how to get started and lack of confidence. Like, Mikaela, you're incredible. You just decided 2 years ago, I'm just going to do iOS, just at the drop of a hat. And Paul, 20 years ago, apparently just looked at Linux and said, I can do that. So yeah, I think sometimes when people want to get into this and they're just a little bit nervous about coming up and presenting and things like that, a lot of the time they're like, oh, we're going up against people with 20 years of experience. How can I present against something like that? Like, how can we just talk about that for a little bit and just blow that away? I mean, it doesn't matter how much experience you have, it's still about your own unique perspectives and what you've learned.
Yeah, so I started iOS development when I had posted that first Instagram post. My New Year's resolution was to learn iOS development. That was, January 1st of 2019. I got my first iOS dev job then at the very beginning of 2021. It possibly could have been 2020, but we all know what happened there. But
It's a mystery.
Yeah. But that's where I had started, and then I went at my first iOS dev job for about 10 months, and then my current role that I'm in now has been just over a year now. But about getting into content creation and everything, just think you still know more than the person that never started. If you wrote Hello World, you know more than somebody that didn't do that, or that didn't look into anything. So you will always know more than somebody else. Yes, you're always going to know less than somebody else, but again, nobody knows the entire Swift language. Like, nobody knows every single thing you can do. As we saw with Vincent's presentation, I think I got all of those questions wrong. And then when he explained, oh, so this is what you should have taken away about how this worked, I still don't understand what he's talking about. So, you will never know everything. So don't, worry about trying, but you're still going to know more than somebody else. And it helps, too, when you're just barely a step above somebody, you can explain something better sometimes than somebody who has been in the industry for 20 years. So somebody who's, been in the industry for 20 years knows, how all sorts of stuff works. They just kind of know how it works. But somebody who had just recently figured out how something brand new works, they can sometimes explain it better to beginners because they don't know all sorts of other things, how it relates to something else, but they can explain it in the terms that they just learned something.
Cool. Anyone else want to add anything?
Yeah,
It's more like just like in terms of like interaction between in terms of different people with different levels of experience. Like how do you break through that sort of mindset that if you think you're inexperienced, like why should I come up and do a presentation?
So I think so for me personally, when I actually got my job, my first job, and I rocked up to the interview, I didn't actually notice for a senior iOS developer role, and at the time I was a junior. So they rocked up and went, "You're a senior, right?" I was like, "I just graduated from university. I'm just here for vibes." So I somehow managed to get the job, but I think that was yeah, exactly, man.
Well done.
All I had was a weather app, and to be honest with you, if I saw that app now, I would have been like, "What are you doing, man?" Like, but basically, I just went into it the mindset that I don't know everything, but I'm just gonna see what happens, and I got the job. But there's been a whole load of mistakes that I've made in my career. Like probably the worst mistake that I've made is that I've actually accidentally published an app that was put into our staging environment rather than production. And one of the stakeholders was saying that why am I seeing test accounts on live? And then I was like, and then my boss was like, "Tunde, why are we seeing test accounts on live?" And then when I went to the Git commit, I was like, "Yeah, that's why I pointed it to the wrong environment. Let me just do that PR really quickly." But I've made loads of mistakes. I mess up. Like Mikaela says, when you watch my videos, you don't see me fixing crashes and stuff. So, in my opinion, you've just got to be okay with failing. It's actually something that you want to do. You actually do want to mess up on purpose. If you don't mess up, you'll never learn, because software development, like anything you do in life, is never linear. There's always going to be bumps, stuff goes wrong. It's how you find resolving that issue which helps you to actually learn more to go to the next level. So if anyone's starting out, or if anyone wants to do speaking and whatnot, even my first talk, I had it where you saw the animations and that. My first ever talk, I had green boxes. So if you had issues with color, if you were colorblind, you weren't seeing anything in that talk. But people told me you can improve this way. So it's just taking that feedback, improving, getting better, and then you'll always go to the next level. So just don't be afraid to fail and just throw yourself out there.
Very good. Aaron, you want to say something? Or Paul?
So the thing that really helped me get over just the immediate regret of talking in front of people after being voluntold to do so is that I really like people and I like talking to people. So I just try to reframe it in my brain that it's oh, I'm just here talking to people that I don't know yet. And I'll look you in the eye, right? Because it becomes, for some reason, a lot less scary to me to realize that I'm just myself, which is it's I think what the fun thing about us is we're all just normal people, right? I mean, I don't know Paul very well. He's David Attenborough, apparently. He's maybe slightly different, but just, the rest of us, we're just normal people who are just blindly optimistic and say, what the hell? Might as well, right? YOLO, basically. I get to go someplace cool. It's fine. So I think also it's not necessarily about knowing something or knowing more than somebody else, but it's bringing your own story to it. Donnie, we were talking about this with Tunde. It's you have stuff that is valuable to say. You are just as worthy and deserving to be on the stage. If you want to be scared shitless, I don't know why. You just come up here and do it. And you don't get hurt. It's fine, right? And even if you're scared, if you're scared that you might not know enough, it's okay to be scared, right? I always tell my 5-year-old, if you feel scared, that's just an opportunity to be brave. And then it's just an emotion. You shouldn't let it control your behaviors. So it's such a growth opportunity to put yourself out there and connect with other people and meet them and share your story. So it's not necessarily about, look what I know. It's hey, this is who I am. Who are you? Let's connect. What can I learn from you? What can you learn from me? And just be brave. So.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And just do things scared.
Yeah.
You can do everything. Just do it scared as well. No one will know unless you tell them. My hand is shaking, kind of.
You can tell them. It's better that way, too.
Yeah. Just do something. Just do it while you're scared, too.
Yeah. I have a question. Is there anybody out here that has submitted papers or is thinking about submitting talks to places? Or if you want to submit, but you haven't done because there's something holding you back? Is that same thing holding you back from holding up your hand right now? Yeah. Is there anybody here? Where?
I saw one in
Where?
the back. Yeah.
I saw one.
Oh, Venus put her hand up.
Yeah. You. What? What's holding you back? Can you just give a couple of examples? Stage fright. Okay. That's normal.
Says the person who's been running the entire conference right now.
Yeah, that's so ridiculous. But you know what? That should actually give people a little bit of boost of confidence, because if like a conference organizer who we all know and like you bring such a good vibe to the event, like if you have stage fright, like we're all just scared up here except for Paul. But yeah, it's like just we're all normal people. It's normal to be scared, do things scared.
Fantastic.
There are 10 words I would love for everyone to memorize. And they're very easy words. Everyone has something to learn. Everyone has something to teach. That's it.
Beautiful.
It's so important. No matter how super senior experienced you are, there are many thousands of things you can learn. And no matter how inexperienced you think you are, you know dozens or hundreds of things you can teach, or from your perspective. There's no harm saying, oh, that talk's been done before, I'll do it my way. A different way. Your way, it matters. And look, don't set your sights on being a speaker and say, that's it, if I can't speak, I'm nothing. There are stacks of ways to contribute to the community that don't involve beating stage fright and getting on the stage. Just yesterday was the funeral service for a very, very wonderful member of our community. His name was Matthew, and you probably haven't sit on any stage, didn't do any books, but he made it his job to mentor people and talk to people and answer their questions regularly. He'd go along to the iOS Dev Happy Hour and help people every time. And that is way more important than any of us dancing around on stage getting claps and stuff. Being there for people, helping people, solving problems again and again and again. Any one of us can do that. Stage fright or not, go alongside someone else and help them. That's the most important thing you can do.
Beautiful. Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you for that, Paul. Yeah. Certainly, yes, that's something we're going to keep in mind. Maybe just on that note, let's do one round of applause for Matthew as well. Okay, I think that was enough time. Do we have any last things we want to say? Just any last words of advice to impart? I think that was a really profound ending. Thanks for that, Paul. That was extremely good. Nope, I think, yeah. Okay, there might be, I think I'm sure there's a lot of other questions people would like to ask. If anyone wants to ask in the Slack, please do. But let's just leave it at that for now. Thank you so much for that, everyone. That was extremely profound, extremely eye-opening, and thank you for that. Something I really want to end with at the end here is, like the sentiment that was said here before, is we're all not from Singapore up here. Hopefully this time next year we'll have a bunch of Singapore people up on the stage here, really representing their country and giving us all these new perspectives that we haven't seen before. So let's make that a goal for 2024. And on that note, thanks again to the lovely panelists, Aaron, Mikaela, Tunde, and of course Paul. Thank you so much, Paul. And let's move on to the next speaker. Thank you again.